Entitled mother wants me to give up seat on a 10-hour flight. When I refuse, she claims I stole the seat. Our cast are EM, entitled mother, EG, entitled grandma, SB, spoiled brat, and me. Well, me. This happened about a year ago, but I just booked tickets for another long flight, and it made me think of this. I was flying from Hawaii to New York and had a layover in Chicago. The flight from Hawaii to Chicago was about 10 hours long, and I had booked my flight well in advance, so I could have my choice of seats. I chose the window seat on the exit row, and as I was waiting at the airport, I was excited knowing my seat was going to be perfect. We start boarding, and I'm one of the first groups to board, so I make sure I have everything I need from my bag, put my headphones on, and start my Netflix binge. About 10 minutes in, the woman next to me taps me on the shoulder. "Hi, sweetie. I'm flying with my family and my granddaughter would like to be in the window seat." I should explain the layout of the plane. There is 3 seats on the left and right side, and 4 seats in the middle. Entitled grandmother and her husband were sitting in the seats next to me, on my side, and the rest of her family, the entitled mother and her 3 kids, all between 2 to 8 years old, were sitting in the middle row. I say to them, "I'm sorry, I chose the seat because I know how long of a flight it's going to be. I would offer to let her sit here during takeoff and then switch, but she looks really young, and I don't think they allow children to sit in the exit row." The entitled mother, overhearing our conversation, says, "So you're just going to be heartless and deny my daughter her window seat?" Spoiled brat says, "Mom, you told me I could have it! Tell her it's mine!" She starts having a temper tantrum and screaming while sitting in the aisle, holding up the entire line of people trying to get to their seats. "Look what you did! You broke that little girl's heart! I hope you know there's a place in hell for people like you." The flight attendant had heard the girl's tantrum at this point and started coming over. What seems to be the issue? These people asked me to switch. This girl stole my daughter's seat. She shoved her way in as I was helping my daughter with her bag, and now she refuses to give us the seat back. I have the ticket to show you that this is my seat. She stole the ticket from my grandbaby. I saw her do it. Me, extremely frustrated at this point, says, "It has my name on it, and I have my license to prove it's my name." Flight attendant looks over everything and says, "This is her seat. Also, your daughter is way too young to be in an exit row. Please don't disturb this young lady again." The rest of the flight, I endured dirty looks from the family, and at one point, entitled grandmother tried to spill a drink on me as the flight attendant was handing it to me. Hopefully the next flight I can just sit in silence. Our next story was posted by user Shy Girl Turned Sassy, titled, "You're going on vacation? Take my kids with you." My boyfriend's cousin, his paternal uncle's daughter, has 4 children. Each of her kids is the personification of the word bratty. The said cousin refuses to discipline them and constantly makes excuses for their behavior. She's also very judgmental of our decision to not have children. She's often made some snide comments towards me, implying that I'm selfish expletive who is depriving my boyfriend of the joys of raising children. For these reasons, and for her generally entitled behavior, my boyfriend has cut ties with her. However, when he visited, and I visited his paternal home 3 years ago for his parents' anniversary celebration, we ran into her again. My boyfriend's dad had urged him to use this occasion to mend bridges with the cousin. So we both tried to make nice and engaged in small talk with her. During our conversation, boyfriend mentioned that we were leaving for Melbourne for vacation in a few days. At this, the cousin's eyes lit up. "Ooh, that sounds like so much fun," she said. "My husband and I haven't gone anywhere since our honeymoon." She whined some more about how hard it is for them with 4 kids. If only they could afford such luxuries, etc., etc., etc. I could tell where this was going. My boyfriend probably felt sorry for her, and being the kind and generous soul that he is, offered to buy them a weekend in a resort at Mount Abu, a hill station in the Indian state of Rajasthan. My cousins, who face scrunched up, "That's nice, but why can't you just take us to Melbourne with you?" My boyfriend, getting a bit annoyed, but still patient, "Well, We want to spend some time alone together. Plus, we'll be meeting some close friends there. Besides, Mount Abu is a beautiful place. Your kids will love it. My cousin, in the annoying Karen tone, I still don't see why you can't take us to Australia. You're being so selfish, going on this great trip and sticking your family with a cheap weekend getaway. My boyfriend's mum says, Cousin, he's making a very generous offer. Either take it or leave it. My cousin, wearing the expression that morons wear when they think they've had a bright idea. Oh, I know. Why don't my husband and I go to Mount Abu and you can take our kids to Melbourne? What? It's a great idea. The kids can have fun in Melbourne with you too. And my hubby and I can enjoy a peaceful weekend. This way the kids can actually spend some time with their uncle. You never make time for them. My boyfriend says, I'm offering for the last time. It's either the weekend in Mount Abu or nothing at all. And why the hell would we ruin our vacation taking care of your kids? How can you say that? My kids are so well behaved. You'll have so much fun spending time with them. Besides, my husband and I could really use us some quiet time. You and Shy Girl turned Sassy don't have any responsibilities. You have no idea how hard it is to raise 4 kids. You can afford this trip. I don't see why you won't share with family. 1 word and you're losing my Mount Abu offer. On hearing this, the cousin shut the frick up. We all had dinner together and she was mercifully quiet. If only her kids had followed her example. You'd think this would be the end of it, but no. We had seriously underestimated her dedication to her Karen-ness. This morning, the cousin showed up at my apartment with kids in tow. I was shocked to see her, of course, and asked if something was wrong. She smiled and said, I'm just here to drop the kids off. You're leaving tonight, right? After taking a second to recover from the shock, I asked, Did you fall and hit your head or something? We told you we weren't taking your kids with us. What part of that did you not understand? She then tried to convince me that my boyfriend had called her later on and had agreed to take her kids. I knew this was bullcrap and called it as such. My cousin became enraged and asked if I was going to break her kid's heart. Why would I break our promise, and how the boyfriend and I could be so cold? I called my boyfriend, and after telling him what was going on, I turned on the speaker. My boyfriend proceeded to chew her out brutally, telling her he would no longer pay for her weekend getaway and that this is exactly the kind of behavior that had made him cut ties with her. She tried to get a word in, but he wouldn't let her. Cousin took her kids and stormed off. Boyfriend and I are having a laugh over this and are still wondering what made her think that this plan would ever work. Our next story was posted by a user, a name that isn't, titled, Entitled Mother Wants Me to Move Away from my mum, on a plane so she can have an extra seat. On mobile. Backstory. Was on a plane back from vacation. My mum and I were sat in a row of 3 and had a spare seat. Entitled Mother wanted me to swap with her so she could get 2 seats to herself and I would sit with her husband and kid. Our car star, Entitled Mum, curly hair, fat but not obese, that special type of, I'm on a cheap flight but I'm better than all of you, binginess. Mum, my mum, me, I fucking cringe so much when people go, ooh, don't know who that is, haha, you know who, tee-hee, fuck off, it's me. And flight attendant, the most useless tit I've ever met, flight attendant. So, we were in the air, the seatbelt sign was off, and we are free to roam about. The flight had a couple of spare seats from what I could see, including the one next to me. My mum and I had booked the middle and window seat, but I moved to sit in the aisle so we would have more space. The woman sat in front. Entitled Mother continuously whipped her head around to stare at me for a few seconds. I tried to ignore her, but it was fucking weird. After 20 minutes of her turning around to stare at me every few seconds, she eventually tapped me on the head. She tapped me on my head by reaching over the seat. Excuse me? Her tone was very severe. Yes. Hi. I was very tired and tried to be polite. Swap seats with me. She maintained eye contact the whole time. I took a few minutes to respond because I was just dumbfounded. I'm with my mum. I'd rather not.
You've got a spare seat. I want to spread out and relax. Swap with me.
No. Please leave me alone.
That's not how you speak to an adult.
She got a little loud, enough to turn heads and disturb my mother, who asked if I was okay.
Swap with me. I need to sit there, and you can sit next to my child. You can play with him.
The child looked around 5. I am 18.
Please leave. Move right now.
This turns everyone's head, made me so embarrassed, and was loud enough to summon a flight attendant, who was a mid-30s male.
Is everything alright here?
He spoke directly to the entitled mother, completely ignoring me.
That boy won't move. He's got 2 seats to himself and he...
My mum interjected, loudly at this point.
I actually have 2 seats to myself, both of which I paid for.
I was sitting in the aisle seat, which we had not booked. The entitled mother did not respond to my mother. I think she was intimidated.
We'll see what I can do.
He then turned to me. Me, who had been listening and present the whole time.
This woman is asking if you'd be able to swap with her so she could have more space. Would you mind?
Would I mind? No, I don't want to swap. The entitled mother erupted. She started yelling at me, calling me a brat, calling me selfish. My mom was yelling at her back, and I honestly was struggling not to laugh at the entitled mother because I noticed how her chins shook as she shouted. The flight attendant, during this argument, shrinked away, just backed off and fucking left. Entitled mother, realizing she was making a fool of herself,
Fine, selfish frickin' brat.
She sat back down and swung her seat back as much as she could, which was fine because it was literally a couple of inches and I had plenty of space. My mum asked if I was okay and if I wanted her to make the entitled mother move. I said I was fine. Entitled mother started making huffing noises. I ignored her, put my earphones on, and the rest of the flight was fine. When we landed, entitled mother made sure to get up like a rocket and block the walkway so I couldn't get out of the aisle. I, however, was feeling petty. I stood up, shuffled over, and said, "You don't mind, do you?" Then barged into the walkway, in a way that looked accidental. She stumbled into someone else who promptly launched her back into her seat. It was hilarious, like watching a ping pong ball. She didn't move after that, and we got off the plane and never saw her again. Our next story was posted by user My Other XD account, titled, Entitled Mother has restoration work done on her house. Thinks she can come into my garden to avoid it. Necessary backstory. This happened a few days ago, when I was home alone after school had ended. I'm 15 but look 18, with my height and deep voice. The entitled mother had moved into the house next door, and I had only seen her and her kids once before. EM is entitled mother, delusional, YK, young kid, male, TN, teenager, male, and me, duh. So, it's 11 AM and I'm playing on my Xbox in the living room, which backs onto the garden through a glass door. I had the curtains drawn so the sunlight didn't make me blind, and I could see what I was doing. With headphones on, I was happily playing games when I heard talking outside. I assumed it was next door coming through the open window, but a few minutes after I heard knocking on the glass door. I pulled off my headphones and the knocking continued. I pulled back the curtains and saw the entitled mother relaxing on my parents' sun lounger, the young kid terrorizing my cat, and the teenager on his phone, as far away from the house as possible. Teenager was chill, I found out later, but young kid and entitled mother were both mental. Here is the exchange following my opening of the door. Me, saying the first thing that came into my head, "What the frick?" Entitled mother looks up.
Don't say that in front of my children.
Teenager said, "I told you someone was home, Mom." "Why are you in my garden, and how did you get in?"
"Well, there is a work being done on my house, and my kids need space to play."
"Go to the park then. Don't invade someone's back garden. Go back to your own house."
"You can't say that to me. Do you know who I am?
I know what you are. A criminal."
"What? I've done nothing wrong." Mum, you broke into this man's house. Just leave, this is embarrassing. No, not until this man says we haven't done anything wrong. I think to myself, they think I'm an adult? So I say aloud to them, I could call 999 right now, or you could leave and I won't take action, ma'am. I have done nothing wrong. There is too much work in my house and my kid needs to exercise. There have been no vehicles entering or leaving this close since 7 AM, which was the post van. I don't suppose the Royal Mail does restoration work nowadays, do they? Fine then, I'll leave if that makes you happy, you prick. Come on, kids. Teenager rolls his eyes and gets up. Young kid grabs my cat and tries to leave. The cat scratches his face and he drops him, screaming. My cat runs past me inside. Look what you did to my son. Apologize to him right now. I did nothing, ma'am. That was your son's fault. This is the last straw. I'm calling the police on you for abusive behavior and assault on children. Good luck with that. Entitled mother calls 999. The police turn up and meet a delusional mother and a calm, sensible teenager with a much more believable story. Guess who got fined and given 6 months of community service? Edit. They gained access to my garden through a broken side gate. Forgot to include this information with the rest of the post. Our next story was brought to us by user Teddy Z. I'm not going to read the rest of that name. You can look at it if you'd like. Titled, Give me kid an A in your class or I'll ruin your life. Triple exclamation mark. Over 15 plus years ago, I was in grad school and was a teaching assistant, teaching a fairly low-level math class in return for not a lot of money. Most of kids were okay. Some were great and some were just awful. I had a lot of latitude in how I taught this class, and had decided to give them weekly homework, 15% of the class points, 3 exams, 50% but only counted 2 exams and would drop the worst grade, and the final, 35%. I didn't give points for attendance and told the students that my view was that they were adults and could make their own decisions. If they wanted to be in this class, that's awesome. If they didn't want to, that's awesome too. But they had to live with their decisions. I was shocked at how many students would blow off class, i.e., they wouldn't attend any classes, turn in any homework, take any exams, etc., until about a month before finals, and realized they were not likely to get an A, or D even, and tried to negotiate special treatment. Most of these kids realized they had messed up, knew they would have to retake the class, and just seemed to be at peace with their decisions. But there were a rare few that refused to go down without a fight and took this thing nuclear. These kids would turn loose their parents on me. I got calls and emails where I was insulted and had them demand I give their little darlings special treatment because they are really intelligent and they deserve it. But the all-time champion was an entitled kid who not only harassed me for a week, demanding I let her do extra exams for free points, she tried flirting, cajoling, yelling, and crying to no avail. I wasn't even surprised when her parents called me asking for special treatment. But I was flabbergasted when I got to my office one day and entitled kid, entitled mother, entitled dad, and some strange woman were all standing in front of the room where several other grad students had our offices. The parents and students smugly tell me that this is my last chance to do the right thing and let entitled kid get free extra points to get her A. And if I didn't, I would have to deal with Miss Batshit Crazy. This woman was quite short and heavy set, kinda like a ball with arms and legs, and dressed entirely in neon-colored lycra. I introduced myself to her. Hi, I'm OP, and since I'm not giving entitled kid free points, it sounds like you have something to say. Who are you? It turns out that Miss Batcrap Crazy was entitled kid's 5th grade teacher. She proceeds to tell me what a horrible teacher and human being I am. How entitled kid is a phenomenal genius that will likely save humanity, end world hunger, end global warming, and cure cancer, all by her 30s. But if I awarded the entire kid the grades she'd earned, then she would likely become so disheartened, it would stifle her ambition, and she would deny the world her great talents, and it would be your fault.
What I left out of that was that over the course of her yelling these details at me for at least 5 minutes, she was swearing at me, saying things that would make a sailor blush. Once again, I refused to give the entitled kid free points. Miss Batshit folds her thick arms and says, "Well, you did it now. I'm gonna talk to your department chair, and he is a friend of mine and will not only fire you, but kick you out of the school and ruin you." Entitled Kid, Entitled P, and Batshit all look smug and cocky, smiling and waiting for me to cave. I smiled back and said, "Let's go do that now." The smug grins had faded into confused expressions. What they didn't know was that every time I had an incident with a student being inappropriate, I would notify the department and they would open a file documenting everything. Entitled Kid's behavior was so extreme that the chair of the department had taken a personal interest in the case and had instructed me to bring him into this whenever I felt uncomfortable. We walked into the office and fortunately he was inside. I introduced him to Entitled Kid, Entitled Mother, and Entitled Dad, and said, "And apparently you were friends with Miss Batshit?" He stared at her and said, "I don't believe we've ever met." The look on her face was priceless. Chair proceeds to ask them what the issue was, and the parents give some wild story about how Entitled Kid deserves an extra opportunity for free points to get an A because she's such a genius. I told Chair that Entitled Kid had only done 2 of the 10 possible homeworks, skipped the first 2 exams, and bombed the 3rd one, and that Entitled Kid had basically skipped class for 8 weeks. Chair got Entitled Kid to admit that these facts were true, but when she started to whine and cry, literally, Chair raised his hands, got her to be quiet, and said basically that because they agreed with my statement of facts, Entitled Kid was not entitled to any extra points, and that the department agreed with my course of action 100%. He said that if there was nothing else, that he was busy and surely I was as well. We wished Entitled Kid good luck and wished them a safe trip. Entitled Kid never attended class again, though I did see her on campus a few times. She'd stare daggers at me and curse at me under her breath, but I just smiled and waved at her, which seemed to pee her off even more. Smile and wave, boys. Just smile and wave.